Hello friends, welcome back to Anthony's garden. So I didn't have a name for my garden, but my son Andrew, he said, hey dad, you need to have some kind of name. How about Anthony's garden? I said, okay, sounds good. I like it. Let's go with that. So my backyard is now officially Anthony's garden. So I'm not going to talk about any of the plants today, but I'm more of going to talk about how to store some of the vegetables long term in the freezer. So in the past years, I've been self-sufficient with potatoes and tomatoes. And potatoes are you can keep it in the soil. You don't have to store anywhere. You just go and pick it up whenever you need. And the tomatoes, just wash it and dry it, and you can throw it in the freezer. So this year I'm trying to get carrots, zucchinis, and beans into that list. The carrots again, you can just leave it in the soil and pick it up whenever you need it. But zucchinis and beans, you need to have certain processing before you can store it in the freezer. There are certain enzymes and bacteria that cause the vegetables to lose its flavor, texture, taste, nutrition value, etc. So you need to kill those before you can store it in the freezer. So I'm going to demonstrate how to do it for zucchinis today. The process is called blanching. Pretty fancy name, but it's a pretty easy process. You need to first treat the vegetable in the hot water and then immediately in the cold water. So let's go and pick up some zucchinis. By the way, finally we started getting some pretty good sun, and my plants, they just love it. So let's get zucchini. That's 3. So we use the zucchinis in place of a white pumpkin in sambar, and we need around 25 for the whole year supply. So I need to find a way to keep it in the freezer, and that process is blanching. So let's go and get into blanching now. Alright, so we got the zucchinis, and the first step is cutting it into the pieces that you want. First step, you need to wash it and then cut it into pieces. Step number 2, you need to boil the water really well. So it has to be really hot. It's not yet ready. We'll give a few more minutes. Step number 3, from the hot water, you have to immediately transfer it to really cold water. So you need to take cold water and along with some of the ice. So essentially what you are doing is you are giving it a shock. So from the hot water, it will stop the process is called shocking. So it will give a shock and it will immediately stop the cooking process. Alright, so the water is really boiling. So let's add zucchini to the boiling water. And I've set the timer for 2 minutes. I'm starting it now. When you add it, really be careful because the hot water can splash onto your hands. And make sure that for the second step you have the cold water ready, because once the timer goes to 0, I'm going to immediately transfer it into the cold water to give it a shot. Alright, the timer is ready and it's boiling. Just given enough time. I'm gonna turn it up. need to keep it in the cold water for another 2 minutes. Alright, 2 minutes up. So then next step is drain it to a paper towel. So you need to dry it a little bit. Alright, so give a puff and dry it a little bit more. And the next step is keep it in the freezer for 2 hours. So essentially what you are doing is you need to separate the pieces out. Don't let them to touch each other, so it will stick when it freezes. So first freeze it for 2 hours, with the tray or in a smaller container, and then once it freezes after 2 hours, take it out, and then you can ziplock it up, because by that time it will be frozen. It won't be sticking it won't stick each other, so that you can store it for a longer term you can in the ziplock or container. So this will go in the freezer for 10 to 12 months. It will stay for almost a year without losing any of its flavor, texture, or the taste. So we kept it in the freezer for a few hours. Now it's ready to be ziplocked. Just make sure that when you put it in the freezer for the first time, you need to use the parchment paper, because otherwise if you use a regular napkin, it's gonna stick to it, and you won't be able to separate it out. Just make sure that you use the right paper. It's a baking paper. So I already kept ziplocked the 2 of them. So let's do the last one, and we are all set. So that's the process of a blanching. So next I'm going to get my beans. Beans is ready to be blanched, and this will go in the freezer for 10 to 12 months easily. Alright guys, I hope you found it useful. If you have too much zucchinis or beans, make sure you blanch it and keep it in your freezer to keep its freshness. Alright, all the best.